To go deeper into our episodes, please visit the show notes in your podcast app. Or, to get a fuller unedited experience, go find this episode on spotlightonpodcast.com. There, the notes are packed with links to resources that give you more about the people and topics explored here. Hello and welcome to Spotlight On, a production of 23 Media Ventures. I'm your host, Lawrence Purrier. Today, the spotlight shines on Berlin-based drummer, composer, and producer Janek van Laak. Janek grew up in the post-reunification Berlin that gave birth to a vibrant culture of music and art. He joined me earlier this year around the release of his debut solo album, Circle of Madness, a record that makes me glad I do not own a record store because I have no idea where I would file it. That said, it might not get filed at all because it would be playing all day. Listeners will find jazz, improvisation, funk, some Berlin electronica, and a lot more, sometimes all in the same song. Genre's not important when the music is this compelling, though. Janek was as much fun to talk to as his record is to listen to. Enjoy both and check out the episode notes to explore even further. So I understand you were recently in India.
Yes, I came back 2.5 weeks ago, and I was there for 2 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Traveling around, taking a bit time off, but also not taking time off.
Did you experience any music while you were there?
Yeah, I did. I played some jam sessions with people, but not really like on the drums. But it was mostly like a mixture of other travelers and some Indian people. Also, I went to a classical Indian music concert. They were pretty young, my age. I would still consider myself young. Maybe I will always consider myself young. But they were like mid-end 20s, and they said it's like more contemporary Indian classical music. And
you weren't getting the secret, deep initiate stuff.
Yeah, there are some modern contemporary ragas probably, and
yeah, still beautiful though, right? It's just it's such enchanting music.
It was pretty tripping. Like I was just laying down for 1 hour. They played 2 sets, and the first hour I was laying down, and I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before, so I was already like in a kind of trance state. Yeah, it was really colorful, I would say. And then in the second set, I started moving a bit and got up. And at some point, the tabla player did there was one moment, I recorded it on my phone, but I didn't listen back to it. There was some pattern he played once, or like one repetition, couldn't get over. Like I'm still like haunted by that thing. And I have to re-listen to it. And thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
with that question, because it's sometimes the things get lost, and then
we're all documentarians, and then we never go back and look at any of it.
How many pictures and videos are taken every day? Like it's crazy, and people going to concerts and watching everything through their screens and producing data, and then,
for the cloud.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that about the tabla, though, because I've experienced that, probably not in the same way you did being there, but that instrument in particular, like it has the ability to sort of recede and then all of a sudden be very much out front, and it can shoot out these very sharp segments or motifs that are just like, I don't know, it's a very interesting instrument.
And I also realized why they don't have a bass in that context. They were just a sitar player and the singer and the tabla guy, and the tabla has very low frequencies, like very crazy subs that are produced. And I never really paid attention to that. But when I was listening to it live, I was like, holy, the range of frequency that this little thing is providing is so big. And exactly what you said, it's like a laser gun, like, and then it's just going back to standby, but like keeping the bounce and everything. And then every now and then it's like, why? How?
All with the hands and the different movements too. It's a very deep instrument. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it's primal at its best because the fingers are also like moving differently, and it's like playing piano but on a drum kind of. But I never touched a tabla in my life, and I wonder why I didn't even. I don't know. I will go back to India anyways.
Yeah.
It was my first time, and it was a good dip to get a sense of what is lying there, and it's a lot to explore in this world. But India is a good place. Have you been there?
I've not been. I've not been. I've always been intimidated, to be honest with you. I consider myself a pretty good traveler. I like to travel, but I would definitely go, but I would need a travel companion who pushed me to. There's
Mm.
other contexts where I'm happy to be the sort of ringleader for the trip, but I think I would need someone to push me over to go.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging in some ways because it's a very intense country. Depending also on where you decide to go, there's a lot of peace to find, obviously, and that's why a lot of people go there. But you're definitely challenged with yourself almost
Yeah.
everywhere you go there, especially somehow. I haven't figured out why, but it's doable. And the fear is, I don't know, it's fears are everywhere, probably, for some people. And India has kind of a bad reputation, I think. But either you love it or you hate it, maybe. I don't know.
I will say everybody I know who's ever gone came back sick. The Western gut just cannot seem to handle it.
Were they in the north or in the south? That's the question, because I only had one day of having some shit going on. Some shit going on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was
No.
mostly pretty good.
Like, what's the context? Was this literally just to go and explore? Is it part of a path or a practice or a study for you? Or
I try to get out of Berlin every year in winter, not for the whole winter, but as long as I can afford it money-wise and time-wise. And I would have liked to stay longer, but I have things to do here, and I feel like, okay, I need to keep on my grind here and work on my stuff. But it's more of the reason of curiosity. Like I try to go to places I've never been before, and India is known for its music and its culture. I knew that when I go there, I will have a good time, and that was the case.
yeah, and plus you had to come back because you have a record to talk about. You have this new work to talk about. You put out music and then you disappeared into into India.
A new record, yeah, it's new because it's out now.
New for us.
It's new for you guys. For me, I'm already 3 steps ahead. The second album is already ready, just needs to find its way now into the world. And in India, I wrote the third one. I'm going to work on that this year and then make the fourth one next year. But we are at number one now, the debut. I'm happy that it's out now. And it's interesting to also listen to it now because I hear it completely differently, obviously, compared to the time when I was working on it and when I just finished it and heard the masters and everything. So now I'm more emotionally detached from the work. It's new to me as well now. So I'm happy to talk about it.
Were you detached from it while you were in India? Meaning, is this the longest you've gone without actually hearing it?
No, I finished the production in December 2022 of the record. And I was listening to the final mixes and masters over the last year, 2023. And then at some point, I just focused more on the production of the second album. And your assumption was good. I wasn't really listening to it. And now when I came back, I was listening back to it now when it's released. And obviously, we're rehearsing the stuff with the band that I put together to play live for this project. And I'm able to listen to the songs in a new way now, which is kind of nice.
I'm really curious about something you said a moment ago about how you essentially wrote another record while you were in India, or a set of songs for I guess, project 3 or 4. What instrument do you typically compose at? Or are you the type that just sits with, like, do you compose just in your head and notate? Or are you at a piano? What's your process?
Yeah, I found a cheat to avoid learning to write the right scores. So what I do is I have a groove, or mainly like a melody, let's say, in my head, and I would record it, maybe just demo-wise in my phone, or maybe it's just in my head. And then I would go on my laptop, open my software, choose a piano sound, for example, like a MIDI instrument. I would mute this one, put on a click, press record, and just type the rhythm of the melodic phrase that I have in my head. And then I would demute the track and just change the MIDI notes. So I have the melody that I had in my head or on my phone or wherever. The computer shows you the score, which you can give to other musicians that are able to read music. And they will play their part, and then you just say, do an impro here, do this melody here, do a solo here, and then you just put it together.
So you've completely disenchanted. I thought you were sitting there by candlelight with a quill pen and ink and the big sheets of staff paper. Oh my goodness! Oh.
I'm this generation of lazy kids who try to achieve everything faster.
What does your composition take the form of? Like, is it literally? Do you stop at melodies, or is somebody getting a full score? Because it's very difficult from listening to the record to actually, and it's something I like and find exciting about it, is that some pieces seem much more composed and arranged. It's hard to tell where the composition ends and just free playing begin. And that's an element I love in general in music, but I'm curious about you in particular.
I would say it's 90% all about the bass line. Like, most of the songs have a very clear, repetitive bass line. I would assume now. I'm not really sure, but I think that's what I noticed. And on top of the bass line, you can add anything you want, basically. There's written phrases and melodics, and some phrases and melodics have a length of maybe 4 or 8 bars, so they don't really repeat quickly, and therefore it might sound more like improvised or something. And there's also improvised phrases and solos of other people that are put over it. But it's usually a groove or like a rhythmic pattern coming together with a bass line and phrases and melodics on top of that. Obviously, I would edit later stuff and find ways. But usually all the songs on the record except one are recorded separately, like all the tracks. I would record the drums first, and then I would invite everyone separately to play their part, and then I would just cut their part together. The idea was to have a sound of a band playing together without having a band playing together because of my limitations and my desire to not needing to bring together 15 people at the same time and rehearsing and going to the studio and all that stuff. It's a pain in the ass to do that here in Berlin, especially. You need a lot of money to do that. So the durations of the songs are fixed all the time. I have ideas when something comes in and when the things go out. It's all basically pre-composed, except solos and improvisations. And then everybody plays its part. I would edit it, and then it's a song.
That's not what I would have expected. It sounds so spontaneous, and I would have honestly assumed that at least the majority of the group outside of overdubs were in the room at the same time. It really came together beautifully, and it does not sound inexpensive. It sounds like a beautiful studio production. It really does. It's a great, the engineering on it it really sounds great.
I appreciate it, man. Scarlett interface, man. I leveled up since then, but for the first album, I used the Focusrite Scarlett 3rd generation 8-channel one without any preamps and stuff, but I would mix it and then bounce out some stems, and I would give them to Tim. He's a neighbor in the studio next door. He's a really great sound engineer and a sound mastermind. And he would put the stems through his analog compression tools, equalizers. We would reamp some stems through tape machine. And then in the end, everything was run through a tape machine again. So it gets this kind of sound. And for the second album, I recorded with the RME Babyface Pro FS, I think.
Are you a gearhead?
Not really. I would be more geared if I would have more money. So
You're a gearhead in waiting.
I'm a gearhead on hold. But, no, I would say I'm a gearhead, but I'm also not a gearhead because I have to work with what I got. But I like to invest also in gear. But it's so much you can buy, and you have to work with what you got. And it's also nice to surrender to your limitations.
Absolutely.
And money is not the reason, obviously, why we do that. And it's an eventuality. And who knows? I would love to buy a second or third drum set and some new cymbals and a nice preamp. I mean, you don't need much nowadays to do good music, you know, or to produce your music. You need a laptop, an interface, 2-3 mics, and the rest is in your hands.
It's really incredible. Yeah. It's interesting to me because the record isn't like a showcase for drums. It's a very organic band sounding album. The drums still sound recorded well, obviously, but they're not pushed to the front. So I guess that sets up the question I have is, what's the difference between this as a solo work under your own name versus a band project? Is it simply you get to execute the entire vision?
I do, and it's more a project, or the intent I had with this vision was to learn to be responsible within the role as a drummer. It's a really interesting process if you engage with an instrument and you dive deeper in it. And I have another band here in Berlin. We started in 2018 where we only improvise music together, called Liquid Brain Orchestra. And besides doing music for hours and listening to our own music after and reflecting on it and analyzing it, we also talk a lot and we criticize each other a lot and we grow through each other a lot. I often heard that I have to accept the role as a drummer, be more the leader, be more responsible and in the way I play and engage. It's a process of finding that purpose of what it means to be a drummer leading a band. Even though I played in bands before and I was a drummer, you know, and doing that, but now it's about my name, bringing together all these wonderful people, but I'm responsible for every hit I play. Not meaning that I put more value or meaning to this project than any other ones, but it's an important process to accept that role and become the best drummer I can be for all the other future projects as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. If the lessons learned in doing this, do you have the vision yet for how they apply in your future collaborative work, not just the work under your own name?
I mean, I'm open for collaboration, and collaboration is happening always. especially in that project. I don't have like specific plans for the future besides working with a Liquid Brain Orchestra, obviously, and with some friends working on some music, but it's not that I have a schedule or some hired gun jobs coming up. I do it here and there, and I'm up for that, but I see myself right now, and realistically, maybe for the next 3, 2, 4, 5 years, exploring more this realm of what's inside me, but at the same time being open for collaboration. If it's supposed to be happening, it's supposed to be happening.
I'm interested in this notion of responsibility that you talked about. Are there musicians you look to as people that you can say, they live the role the way I think I should? Or is there somebody who's sort of a role model, or the way they carry and present themselves is like, that's an aspiration?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of people that are famous, obviously, that have that role. I could name you a few drummers now if you want. But also there's a lot of friends and musicians around me that are living that role. And it's not about only drummers, but like about how you handle yourself and how you respect your own decision making about deciding to go on with that particular instrument. It doesn't have to be only one instrument, but the intent you play your stuff. The whole responsibility topic is not over yet. I think it will never end, that you have abilities and openings to improve not only skill-wise, but also the way how you live your life, and at the same time how this way you live your life reflects in the way you play your instrument. But I think the first drummer I looked up to, where I felt like, okay, this is a power horse who just nailed it. But I wasn't thinking about responsibility and this role of leading back then, but it was definitely John Bonham. It's still like one of the most inspiring drummers to me in many aspects, sound-wise, playing-wise, musical context, just incredible.
The sensitivity of the musicians in that band to each other is often left out of the conversation because they are so powerful, and they're actually very versatile as well. I mean, they can play such a diverse range of music, but Bonham's sensitivity, even though he's so powerful, he's so right for the moment all the time. And that's really that's a gift. But it's also, I believe, something you have to cultivate as well. There's that listening, that feeling and listening.
I agree. To train your listening ability is a very crucial aspect of becoming a master in your instrument, because the way you listen to yourself when you play is not the way how you sound to someone else who's listening. I mean, you don't play for others, but you also play for others. For me, it's the dynamic range you have on the drums. I don't know how many millions of velocity possibilities you have to hit with a stick, but it's so sensitive, and to develop a feeling and the perfect touch for every situation, like what you mentioned about Bonham, this is king, and this is what I want. Like, not to sound like Bonham or anyone, but to find the right touch for every moment that is required.
Maybe in that context, or more broadly, what's the role of restraint, and what's the role of like quiet? Because the goal isn't a fill constantly, and you can say as much by sitting back, right?
For sure. The space you don't play, you also play. I don't know who said it, but it's like between every note you play, there is a space in between, which makes the note that comes after valuable. And it depends on the context. Like in an improvisational context, to not play is sometimes more than to play at all. But also then you think sometimes, okay, now we're here together, we're doing music and we came together, why wouldn't I play?
Right.
But I have sometimes that I'm feeling like if I would enter this conversation now, I maybe have something to say, but I don't want to overthink, obviously, but it's so beautiful already. And it's the fear of killing that beautiful thing which is already there. Why adding something if it's already everything there is, in a way?
We'll be back with more Spotlight On right after this break. If you enjoyed this episode of Spotlight On, please share us with a friend and leave a review or star rating on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks. And now, back to Spotlight On. You strike me as someone, and from having read some other interviews with you, there's no one rule for every situation. That's something you didn't say that, but I take that sort of from your philosophy that like there aren't really absolutes. There seems to be a lot about context appropriateness or context sensitivity. Am I correct in picking that up in you as sort of a philosophy?
Yeah, I would agree in a way. If you think piece by piece or song by song, it's ideally a thing for itself, which relates in the framework of an album to the framework of the album and the other songs, but still is standing for itself. But I think there is a red line also going through the pieces, and it's not that wild for me as it maybe sounds to others when you hear it.
Like a common theme or an intention, is that?
Yeah, I mean, for the first album, there was not really an intention. The intention was just to let everything out there is now and see what it is. For the second album, I set a more clearer framework. And for the third one as well, like more sound restrainment in terms of, okay, let's go with only these 6 or 7 instruments. And for the third one, I don't want to use drums at all, for example, and just work with my voice and other instruments. So there's an intention of setting a framework, but not really the urge to be super loose and as different as possible compared to what you did before.
What's the role of precision as a drummer in particular? Like, is precision important?
Precision I would refer as, you maybe mean tightness, but I would say, yeah, obviously, it's very important. But precision could also be applied to everything else around the drums. Like how precise, how focused are you in your daily life with your decision making, precision making. But to me, it's very important to be precise with the things I do, which doesn't mean that I cannot have fun and I force myself to be precise. It's about the intent you put into the things you do, and our time is limited. The more precise I am with my thoughts, with the things I say, the things I want to communicate to other people, or say on the drums, I have to be precise to communicate as clearly as possible without taking an extra road that's not necessary to be taken.
The question I had written down here, I think my intention in asking it's changing a little bit based on some of the things you've said, because what you just told me a few moments ago made me think of things like the value of time, not wasting time, but still finding the opportunity for spontaneity and moments of lightness. There's this balance, right, between seriousness and frivolity that's important in life and music. What role does humor play in your work? Because it's clearly there. And just from talking to you, like clearly you like puns and wordplay. I wonder, like, how do you think about that in the context of what is otherwise a very serious endeavor for you?
Yeah, good question, man. Without humor, I wouldn't be here now, probably.
That says more about your parents.
Uh,
What, did they meet at a comedy show?
no, but my mom was a comedian, actually, when she was in her early 20s. And then she got pregnant with me and she decided to do something else. But they're both really funny in different ways. My father has a very sarcastic side, which I internalized pretty well and maybe expanded a bit, added some DLCs to that package. But I think with all this like urge to create and to work on your stuff, it's serious in the way that you are committed to it and you like to excel maybe, and you have this vision and hunger for creation, but it needs to be funny. Anything I do. I don't know, maybe it's my nature, but without trash talking in the rehearsal room every now and then, I wouldn't be doing it. No.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to realize for me here. It's completely out of any logical sense that it's possible to do music anyways, and to have that privilege, to have the time and the capacities, all the limbs, the hearing, be astonished and laughing about the fact that this is actually happening.
Yeah, there's something inherently absurd about it.
Completely ridiculous.
Yeah. I always enjoy when I see musicians playing and one of them does something, and I don't mean like a funny riff or an in joke or a lick or something like that. I mean, they make each other laugh by just the joy of what they pull off musically, maybe in an improvised context or something like that. Maybe that's not quite humor, but it's another manifestation of sort of the bizarreness of the whole thing, like just the magical nature of it.
Yeah, it's like when they do something and they're like, what? How's it possible? That's the good thing about it. And I think that's why we do it, because we're greedy and we want these moments. We want these moments when things can happen and you're like, you surprise each other. We feed off that.
To that end, could you tell me a little bit about the live shows? Like, what's the presentation, especially given how you created this music? What goes into rehearsing the band and working the material up? And what kind of venues do you play? Like, are you in a jazz club? Are you in a rock club? Are you in non-traditional places? I'm so intrigued by how this comes off live.
Actually, we just played one show with that project. One day before New Year's Eve last year. We play the release show this Friday. The whole point why I'm doing that music and writing that and composing and producing and all this stuff is because I want to just give ideas to the listener how it can be sounding live, so we can actually start playing that stuff. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. This venue we play right now is like next to our studio. It's like a art space with capacity for maybe 200 people. But I see that music happening at festivals, like music festivals. Jazz clubs, not necessarily, but if someone wants to book that for a jazz club, I'm not shying away from that. It's like 8 people now on stage on Friday. It's a lot.
Wow.
And it could be less, but it's also nice to have this kind of force of sound and to get close to what it is on the record.
Yeah, that's quite a palette, 8 people.
Yeah, I mean, there's people touring with 50 trucks and building stages and, I don't know, skyscrapers, all that shit. So it's definitely should be possible to be touring anywhere with an 8-piece band and 10 other people who are hanging out with us. So this is just a matter of time on this until this can be happening. But yeah, it's definitely fun to play the stuff and challenging. It took some time to get the songs work out, and it was a good timing also to come back now 3 weeks before the show and putting it together again.
Will you play the whole album? Are all of the songs able to be played live?
Technically, should be possible to play them live. I mean, they won't sound like on the record because we will extend them sometimes. So
Oh, great.
for me, it's more like the songs are structures and frameworks, and when you play live, you can improvise within that and find out how long the song is supposed to be today. Tomorrow it might be longer or shorter, or that sequence might be longer or shorter. But it's about all these cues and moments that everyone is aware of, so everyone has like a role at some point. Maybe someone starts this song, someone starts that song. I do a certain role or whatever into this part or that part. It's a process of finding the language between each other that's working for that one. And it's really nice because now it's starting to make fun. Today and yesterday was like, okay, we're getting there. Cool. Let's keep on doing that.
Yeah. Will you rehearse the day of the show, or will you step away and approach the stage like totally fresh?
Oh, I never rehearsed on a day of a show. That's actually a good idea.
I don't know if it is.
I think it's not good. We will have a sound check and stuff. So we will probably play 3, 4 songs. But then it's also like if something's not working right, then I don't know. Everything will be fine anyways. So we rehearsed enough. I think we did like 5 or 6 rehearsals since I'm back, which is not a lot actually. No, it's not a lot, but we did good so far.
You don't want everybody to get too stuck in patterns and I don't know.
Yeah, there was a band called Swans, you know them probably. They used to rehearse next to us last year for the new album. They made a tour and stuff, and they're known to be the loudest band in the world, which is another topic. But I talked with the guy, Christoph Hahn. He plays the slide guitar in Swans. We talked about it a few years ago when we met on a movie shooting. And he told me they rehearse 1 month, 6 days per week before a tour.
Wow.
And they usually go to some place and then just get really tight. But they obviously get paid every day for practicing in that project. And once I'm able to do that, I would like to do that. Having 5 rehearsals per week, everybody gets money. It's a job, a funny job. So if that's possible, I would do it, for sure. You don't necessarily have to get too stuck in your head. Time off is also important to let the brain readjust with the new information that is put in. It's really interesting. Sometimes if you step away from something and then you get back to it, and then you're like, oh, I got better. Even though I didn't do anything, I just let it go.
It's such an interesting phenomenon, the way that works,
Mm-hmm.
or how a good night's sleep even.
It's weird. But maybe this is exactly the thing, that you have to let go of your desires and whatever in order to get what you are longing for without having that desire to want it.
Yeah, I think people are always so worried about what lurks in their subconscious, but it's really the conscious mind that's the troublemaker. Subconscious is the one that's like working out everything for you. It's the stuff that's right out in front that's going to get you in trouble.
Good point, yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. To me, it seems easier to work with a conscious mind instead of the subconscious. And therefore, it's, I don't know, good things are happening because I'm learning to control that, and I trust the subconscious. It's about to rule over your conscious mind. Not to rule over it, but to negotiate.
Are you at all aware of, or do you feel as though you're part of a scene or a movement? Because in doing this work on the podcast, it seems like, especially throughout Germany, Switzerland, I guess you could talk about the London jazz scene as well, but it seems more on the continent. There's a real interesting moment now where, at sort of the intersection of electroacoustic music with improvisational elements, like it seems like we're finally at a moment where people coming from more of a producer beats driven tradition are finally mashing up against people coming from maybe an improvised or jazz tradition, and very interesting things are happening. Are you part of a world like that, or do you operate in sort of a self-contained way?
I've never thought about it. I mean, I obviously operate in it because we're all here and we're all doing it and we're part of each other. But there was a self-talk I had with myself a few years ago where I felt I'm not really a part of it and I'm more in my own world, trying to not get too much of this stuff that's going on around me too close, which doesn't mean that I don't want to get inspired, but also find a balance between creation of others, inhaling that, focusing on your own possibilities. But yeah, it's a pool of inspiration everywhere. It's hard to tell who is who, what is what. But there's definitely a movement that is visible, and I have nothing against it, but I don't feel like a huge part of it.
Do you listen to music?
Yeah, sure. Last year I didn't listen so much compared to the years before, and it was like by choice because I wanted to take a bit of a break and to focus on what's in me or what is coming through me. But now I listened a bit more, and it's really good to get back and to go more to live shows. And I wasn't going to many concerts last year and the year before, but I think this year I've seen more concerts than in the last 2 years together, and it's pretty refreshing.
I find that if I don't go to a live show for a few weeks, I can feel it. Like I get, or to say it differently, when I go to a live show, and it can be 50 people in a small listening room, or it could be a club, or it could be the biggest extravaganza, but I leave feeling so good. Like there's something about the live music experience, experiencing music around other people. It's very important for my energy.
It's incredible. There's people on stage communicating with each other just with their instruments, and they have this energetic exchange, and they put this wave of sound into the audience, and they both feed off each other, and it's incredible. It's super nurturing. Like when you play a show and it was not a really bad one, then you also feel pretty high after it, just from the sheer fact that you had this opportunity, and vice versa. And there's still shows. I mean, you probably have been to a few concerts where you still think about sometimes, and you have this, whoa, that was a special night. There was something in that room that was just unbelievable.
You mentioned that you have the second project completed. Is it done?
The second album
Yeah.
is done. There's just a few mix adjustments, and also we have to put it through tape, I think, again. And now it's just a matter of getting another funding and waiting for Sam to finish the cover art. Shout out to Sam. You're the man.
It's funny. That was one of the things on my list of notes here, was to ask you about the cover art. I love the album cover. It's so incredible.
Yeah, man. I'm so happy about it. We want to print posters now of it. Like Sam and I talked today, and he will remove the fonts on the backside of the LP, and then we're going to do some good paper prints.
Striking art.
Yeah, he's incredible, man. I saw his art before, and I was like, he's the guy, but I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But you can expect even better next time.
Well, then I will. Damn will. Listen, thank you so much for your time. I love the record. I've been listening to it pretty much on repeat for the last few days. I feel like I hear something new every time, and that's fun. It's really fun.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. It's really, I have this phenomenon of like, time doesn't work normally with that album. It's really interesting because there's times where it feels like it's a long album, but it's not. It's just that it moves a lot. In fact, some of the songs are rather short, but I don't perceive them that way. I don't know. I'm like knee deep in the record because I've been listening to it a lot. So I don't have great articulation, but I'm having fun with it. I like it a lot.
Cool, man. I like the time reference because time changes. Like the feeling of time is so different in the morning, in the evening, especially like I have it when I'm on the drums and I practice in the morning or maybe practice in the evening, and how the feeling of the pulse it's completely different. I'm happy to hear that you have that on the record. Maybe you have a different record than I have.
Yeah. I've only been listening to it digitally. I think I'm going to pick up the vinyl because I think that's going to add yet another experience to it. So yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to hearing where you go next.
You can also put the vinyl and then play it only halftime.
If I can't get enough, if I just need even more, I can.
Time.
Well, that's a good technique. I'll try that with some of my favorite albums. Thank you so much, Janek van Laak. And as always, thank you for listening to Spotlight On, a production of 23 Media Ventures. I'm your host and executive producer, Lawrence Purrier. We're produced and edited by Michael Donaldson, with theme music by Q Burn's Abstract Message. If you'd like to support our work, please rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts, or visit us online at spotlightonpodcast.com. There you'll find our free episode archive, weekly postings on our official blog, and a ton more. Thanks for listening, be safe, and stay in touch.